Hi everyone, I'm Kat. Welcome once again to the Unicorn Painter. This week we are gonna be continuing with the Custodes, but we're gonna be changing a little bit the thing. Instead of like painting infantry as we did last week, we are gonna be tackling the big tank that comes into the same box, which I'm really excited about. I've always wanted one of these. They were always crazy expensive because they were resin, and now I am over the moon that I was able to get it on plastic. And I'm also excited about it right now. That probably is gonna be coming soon. And I think I'm just gonna try a few thingies and see where those go. Okay, maybe you like it, maybe you don't. Just let me know down below. And without further ado, let's go. Painting the Caladius craft tank, it's gonna be really interesting. I've always wanted to. They've always held my imagination. When I was little, I could not afford one. So we're starting with like a really smooth Chaos Black Prime miniature and applying some Gunmetal by Vallejo in the metallic paint range that they have. The thick bottles, not the new ones. It gives a really lovely, highly reflective surface. Even if it's a dark metallic, it will give us a lot of depth when we apply the next step over it, which is going to be using Duraluminium to create the mostly highest highs on all the lights that we're gonna be applying. I may have gone slightly too overboard doing the highlighting with this color, so it ended up being maybe a bit more flatter than I would have wanted. But using some thin down dark tone, we are gonna be trying to give it some more depth. It's thin down 50-50 with the speed paint medium to reduce the chances of it pulling, or at least if it pulls, it won't look too crazy bad or anything. We're gonna be happily weathering the miniature later in the sense of like we're going to be making those metals look very distressed, so some light pulling won't look more than just extra detail for the weathering step. Using some Shining Silver by the Army Painter, we are highlighting the whole of the body. I'm highlighting everything at this point because I'm not too sure when I'm doing this what parts I want to just leave metallic, what parts I want to add some other colors. My final choice was to create something interesting. I always seen people paint marble panels on Custodes, so I wanted to do a little bit of the same, but with my own approach, let's call it. I started applying some black. I think I ended up just using my black primer again, the Vallejo airbrush one, and using some alien purple through a baby wipe to create the modeling effect of marble. It's my second time attempting this, so I'm quite happy with how it looks. Not that peeling it took all my masking off and I needed to redo it after. But I learned my lesson and I tried to apply it when I was doing the marble for all the other parts. To the purple, we do the same again in a different way of putting the tissue with some gold paint to create that veining of the marble. It ends up looking more like a mottled effect, but I'm not unhappy with it. Maybe adding more stuff to it was a good idea, maybe not. You can tell me in the comments what you think. I added some white to create more like the final paints and the contrasting color, you know, but I think like 4 colors for marble maybe was a bit too much. You look at it and it's like, oh, you know, it looks pretty nice and it has that contrast and stuff. But 50-50 on if washing it with thin down Hive color purple was the best idea, because it unified everything. It looked so cohesive, as if it was properly some purple marble, but at the same time I think it lost a lot of the interesting values of the white, which I was really liking, but at the same time I really like how it looks after washing it, so I'm a bit torn on that. Just be careful while you're applying it to not reactivate the paint and you're golden. I was using the same colors as we did before, some gunmetal to cover most of my spillovers. It looks really dark against the Duraluminium highlighted body, but I thought it'd be better if I painted something dark and then just added a little bit of Duraluminium to highlight it. Green Black by the Army Painter. As you know, at this point, it's one of my favorite ways of blocking down anything that is black and adding some interesting color to it that is not just like a flat black. So we use it for a lot of the riveting and the mount. I don't know how to describe it, like the brackets for holding the big guns of the Caladius Grav tank in place for the turret, and some of the cabling and some of the soft parts that we see around. I wanted to use it in more places, but I could not really find something interesting to put it down on. I added it to the tubing underneath, which we're not going to be seeing much ever, and the capacitors, let's call them, of the gun, using some necro gold, the same as we did for all the gold details on the custodian guard. We're just gonna be hanging it to the engine block of the Caladius and some of the properly gold parts. I decided that I didn't want to add like a third metallic color, you know, copper or something like that, as it's usually done in like all the more capacitors and motor block and similar things. So I just went with the gold that we're gonna be weathering after with some Verdigris, as we always do. We're mixing down our favorite oil wash, 50-50, burnt umber and ivory black with, and now I'm trying a really cool product by AK, I think it is, which is a fast drying thinner for oil paints, which I'm probably in love with, as it's really good. It thins down the oils properly without like any issues, and at the same time it speeds up the drying so much that when I was finishing doing the whole body, the oil that I put down on the little bit of a metallic plate that I have there was starting to get like thick, which has never happened for me. Like, I've been using oils both in like miniatures and traditional art media for like forever, and they always take forever to dry. So just removing it with makeup blender. This was like not even 15 minutes after I started applying the oil, not after I finished even. And it's mostly dry. I didn't want to leave it like fully dry because I was not sure if I would be able to remove it without reactivating it, and I always prefer to just do it quickly and leave a bit of interesting texture to it. After that, I grabbed some more shining silver and decided to just touch up a little bit on the edges on the armor and some of the black casing to create more of a metallic black, let's call it, and reestablish a little bit of the highlights that we have kind of lost. Using Aquamarine and some water in this case, we just create like a really nice, interesting Verdigris effect. Maybe I thinned it down too much, but I also wanted it to be more splodgy and a little bit more chaotic in how it felt, because it was going to be like this round surface, and I was not sure how it would look otherwise. Here I just applied also on the gun, and everything that was gold got covered in it, as we usually do. And I think it adds so much interesting visual information to the gold, and it transmits a lot of the ambience that we're establishing, you know, if like even this imperious gold got tarnished, what is going on. For the base, even if you're not going to see it much, I did some sculpting in a little bit of just base texture with like some old Custodes bits, and it's pretty easy, just using Dectan and increasing the light passes throughout the base, and just finishing with pure Dectan with the brush to catch the highest highlights by this extremely thick brush that I always end up using in one way or the other in these videos. We're using Acrylics Earthshade. I'm still using one of my many old pots. This effect in this amount of transparency I did with some diluting with speed paint medium and a little bit of matte varnish to remove any possibility of super shiny application or anything. So maybe you can just use the newer one with a little bit of matte varnish. 50-50 of dark rust and light and fresh rust, I think it is, from the Army Painter, with some airbrush thinner to create the little bit of rusting on the more metallic parts. Metallic as in steel or whatever this alloy is. My idea is to show that the Custodes even are starting to rust a little bit, is that the environment that they are on, it's not just toxic or damaging, it's consuming even the oromite that they wear. It has many tiny little bumps around the hole that I decided to interpret as gemstones. I don't know exactly what they are, but I need more practice on painting tiny gemstones properly, so I thought, okay, why not? Let's do it this way. And I painted the targeting vertical, I'm going to assume it is, on the turret, a little bit of the same. I think just a bit more detail to the upwards reflection too. I think it looks pretty okay, and I'm slowly getting better at doing that. Well, after waiting for the washing step to be completely dry, I just grabbed some more Dectan and decided to just highlight again the base to create a bit more depth to the color. You know, it has a little bit of brown, black, and all that interesting coloring underneath it. I was mostly ready to call the miniature done, but then I was like, okay, I think the engine blocks need a little bit more of a thingy, so I was like, okay, some distressed metal, as it's been burning non-stop for a long time, and it's starting to get this cool heat bloom effect, I think it's called. So I just did with like some Moonlake Coral and Highlord Blue, slightly thinned down, and then just highlighted with silver. And this is the final effect. I put so many tiny little tabs on the base, and I tried to trace the shadow so it properly looks darker, not only because the tank is on top of it. So I hope you enjoyed this week's kind of different style for what we're doing, the things that we tried, and I hope that you enjoy it, because I'm honestly a little bit crazy with how it looks, and I did something. I didn't attach it fully to the base, so it's easier to transport and keep safe. So yes, I'm really happy. So I hope that you liked it, and either way, just let me know down below in the comments what you think, if you enjoyed the video, if you want something a bit different, and if you'd like to see anything specific from me, any style or anything else. Also, just comment that below. Another reminder that we have Discord, and you can find me on Instagram as Unicorn Painter, and here on YouTube, and also on BlueSky. I'm not very active there, but just in case you want to drop by. Okay, for next week, I'm just gonna show you a little spoiler. We are gonna do see the little contemptor. Yes, okay, bye-bye.